Bonjour, Tansegya.
Hey, how are ya?
It's a smudge for your thoughts.
With Cohesis.
And Zosha. Almost forgot to press the button there.
So today we are talking to Caid Jones.
Yeah, so it's a great conversation. He has a lot to say about community and culture and what it means to him to be Swampy Cree. And in today's episode, it's I think it's super important to listen to the entire episode. If you don't, I hope all of you are listening to the full episode. But Caid gives a great perspective on a bunch of different topics that are super
Really grounding and balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really hope that you take what he has to say to heart and live the way that he's talking about here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Listen to it. Peace. Hey, it's me again. Real quick, I'm just gonna let you know we're gonna play one of Caid's songs instead of our intro. So hope you enjoy, and you should check more of his songs out. And yeah, bye.
Okay, see ya.
I just like the sound of it.
I don't understand how we don't see problems. We treating the game like the bottom of running shoes while you're robbing. Either you gonna shoot or they gon' stop you. Just what they taught you. Life was more than the things that they bought you. Brother, I watch you. Feelings were more than the costume. Too many people behind the idea. They hide behind their costumes. Watch you. Watch all your friends, the places you've been and your thoughts too. If I could've known all the things I do now, I would've reached for the top and do what a boss do. All of you shooters, they Judas, they cross you. They like the things that I'm on to. I like to do what I want to. Brother, we on soon. This in the game, but you playing like you can roll the dice and move away. Going Super Saiyan, I'ma move away and you can duplicate it, saying you can take it. I don't need no rules, I just move to break them. If it's rooted in your mood to shake it, I don't mean to intrude your space. I don't do complacent, all your friends come around when you can make if you wanna play. You falling like dominoes, already meeting a lot of goals, making my way to the plane. Like you oughta know, this is not a joke. Hit the station, I gotta go. Music is life, make it honorable. This is for love, no and not for gold. It just happened to be profitable. Just imagine if I drop a load, that's a road I would never go. Impossible, I make sure my heart is audible. I make sure that peace is possible. Take a piece about the optical, see the scene. So these people ain't an option, know there ain't shit to talk about. If you don't respect me, bitch, I'll be walking out. I'm growing, I'm here and they talking now. When all you was doing was talking down, I don't resent. Holding my pen, I know what I'm worth, no I won't swerve. This is a growth spurt, if you wonder it gon' work. I feel like the finish is closer, this is closure. I do it all over, I'm keeping it sober. But I like my weed and my whiskey, my tea, and my raps and my coaster. Oh no, how does it feel when your boy come and bring you that real? Say power is higher, let go your desires, yeah. Oh no, how does it feel when your boy come and bring you that real? Say power is higher, let go your desires. Yeah, I move like a monsoon. Watch the paranoia, it'll haunt you. What would your God do if the world isn't moving behind you and the lights can blind you? Hope I don't see I don't see legends in interviews. Said I don't see goat, I don't see dope. I'm just like what's got it into you? Said I don't see Slim, he just went ghost. He used to stand for the bus, he used to stand for the trust, he used to stand for the people. What happened like fuck? All of my idols went away and couldn't innovate. I wanna set it straight if I ever say that I'm stuck. Just know that I let away all the pain as I renovate. It's hard to be strong when they wantin' you crushed. Feeling of lust for the game, I'm accustomed to change. I run through my brain, hope that I never succumb to the pain as I drum in the rain with the sun in my veins. My people are hungry to rumble the chains. Matter of time to the coming of days. Hope that you find a love that you stay. Open your mind, said open your mind. Got no one to side with Ella who we could be vibing. Silence, Kisi Manitoba alive. And Yahweh, Yahshua, keep us surviving. Looking for peace on your island. Honest to God who's your nana. Use it for love and the honor. This here Kuna Matata. All of the things that we got. I'm more than a feeling of honor. All of the pain what we got. I follow the scream for the dollars. Making my dream, it's regardless. Scream for the goddess. Life what it seems to you, try it. Can't even think where we're I've been think about flying. Can't even think about the sirens. Living life, I'm going diving, thriving. Got a little bit of an alignment. Yeah, I'm writing and I'm looking with alignment. Peter Pan, I'm feeling tired, I hate from my environment. Minute on my time and I can make you feel it's bottom at the bottom. But I'm working, feel it, find on me, I'm not tolerate the business. Cause everything is true until it isn't. But you following these shoes like a religion. Tell me if I didn't have a photo kick or written or a platform I could spit, would you really give a shit? That's all I got. That's all I got. That's all I got.
All right, Cade. So we'll just get started with the first question we have, which is just to introduce yourself. What's your name, where you're from, how you identify yourself, if you identify with a tribe or nation, or just any way you identify yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for having me so much.
Yeah, of course.
My name is Caid Jones, and that would be my stage name. So that's my artistry name that I go by, and my real name would be Caden. And I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, here in Canada. I identify as Cree, Swampy Cree, on Treaty One territory. And I've been making music and dabbling in brand management as well for the last 4 years, and kind of seriously for the last 2 years. And here out in Winnipeg, we do a lot of youth workshops with graffiti gallery. We do different community organization things where we bring music to different community events. We bring dance workshops and stuff like that to different community events. And so, been working with that company Graffiti Gallery for the last year, which has really built my skills in that area in terms of community outreach and in terms of being involved and seeing more of the community. Um, yeah, so I'm about 20 years old, just turning 21 soon, and yeah, I've been doing music for 4 years and plan to continue doing it for the next long while.
Nice.
Cool.
You're just getting started with your life and your music career. I'm sure it's gonna go real well and real far. So,
Thanks so much.
congrats to you so far. So I really liked. I read a little bit about you, in your bios that are out there, and I did see that you are into a lot of community outreach, and um, so I think that's really important, to be oriented in not just the entertainment part of it, but using your platform to and your the venue to bring in people and connect with the community more than just kind of being this person on stage and disconnected and you know so I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I like that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I definitely find it really important. Like all my idols and people that I looked up to in the music industry just seem to be people who spoke towards a better message, and I really
Hmm.
admired that. If you look at artists like and let's put an artist out there, Eminem, right? You know what I mean? A lot of his songs, right, were very vulgar. He had some vulgar songs, and just the perspective he was painting a lot of the time sometimes could be very vulgar and very, very intruding on other people's, well-being. But at the same time, like with how he was able to express himself and be that beacon of just expression and being who he is, and communicating what he's seen around him, he was able to help hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and kids and listeners and whatnot, and in whatever little way that he was able to provide that support. And for my support, just by him, kind of doing that, and not just going about money, not just rapping about being on the stage,
Hmm.
not just kind of doing those other things. By him bringing a true, genuine story and his true, genuine
Hmm.
self, he had helped me with that, and so that was like my start into seeing that there's more to artistry. There's a lot more to artistry and a lot more, what you would call responsibility that comes with it when you have such an impact, like somebody like Eminem, or like
Hmm.
somebody like doing these things in the world. And if you're not using that responsibility correctly, you know what I mean, you have such an influence that you realize that there's things out there that you're causing you might not mean to be causing, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so it's best to put out that healing energy as opposed to the other side of the coin, you know what I mean? but
Hmm.
but that's where my idols come from, and that's kind of where I it is a longer process obviously than that, but where I've developed kind of focusing more on just the artistry and focusing on what the impact can be behind the
Hmm.
artistry.
Yeah, I like that
I like that too. So, you've touched a little bit about on this, but what
a lot on it.
inspires you to uh, do what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I guess we could just kind of sort of start like a little back, like how I started music. I've always, I grew up on rock and roll. I grew up on those sort of things because that's what my parents were into, and that's what the other older generation was into, right? So I grew up on a lot of different music, and it wasn't until I think like I was about 12 years old that I found hip hop, um, sort of on my own doing. But my father around that time had an Eminem album, and he had showed me that album, and it was like a click right there. You know what I mean? I had
Mhm.
really enjoyed that album, and so from coming from rock, hearing Eminem, um, I heard that and I was like, wow, that style and that music genre is something that's amazing. I just started diving into it myself, like just became a huge fanboy of Eminem, D12, and Dr. Dre, all these guys, and just started really going into that sort of stuff. And from there, like I never really thought about doing music, writing it, nothing. Just here's my guys. I like listening to them. They have a perspective I like. I relate to it. And it wasn't until grade 11 in high school I'd struggled a little bit through the earlier periods of high school, but it wasn't until grade 11 that I had gotten to, a position where I'm starting to get a little more mature and starting to have a little more things. But I was communicating with my English teacher, and at that time he was very personable. So this
Mhm.
English teacher was very personable. He was willing to let students work on the things that they want to work on,
Mhm.
and as well kind of bring their skills out as opposed to say, here's an essay, go research this
Mhm.
essay, write down what I want to see. No, it's he's going to judge that kind of try as best he can to judge that based off of being in your shoes, right? What
Mhm.
you created with your skills. And anyways, fast forward, I we were doing poetry one day in class, and my poetry writing style was always rhyme scheming. Just for some reason, subconsciously, that's what I thought a poem was. You have to
Mhm.
rhyme it for it to be a poem. And so I wrote these poems, blah blah blah. And I realized one day, I take a poem home that I have, and it was marked and all that, but I take it home, and I realized if I read it a little bit faster, this becomes like sounds like a little bit of a rhyme, and I'm like, whoa, like I'm kind of freak myself out a little bit. I'm like, this
Mhm.
sounds a bit like a rhyme. Let's throw on a YouTube beat and let's
Mhm.
go a bit faster.
Mhm.
I threw on the YouTube beat, went a bit faster. I'm like, wow, like if I change up a couple words here and there, this really sounds like a rap.
Yeah.
And so I was like blown away by that, and I actually just started, doing it every single day. And so that was my first inspiration. My first big inspiration was finding out that within myself I had a capability and ability that I had discovered and that I didn't know existed, right?
Mhm.
And so I didn't know this potential existed, and I saw that potential, and that gave me such inspiration, knowing, hey, I have a skill, a tool that I can develop and I can use and I can go towards. So I spent like, countless days since then writing because I was like grade 11, like 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, and since then I've been like writing every day and all that sort of stuff. So that was my first big inspiration. Second big inspiration, like I had said, was while listening to all of these guys. I'd grown up kind of in a world, and around that age, I started having a perspective on reality where I had thought that reality had lied to me in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so around that age, I had this perspective that the world was all good. Everything was good in the world. Everything was fine. Everything was happy. And by listening to these artists and by taking in their perspective, taking in their feelings, I was able to understand the world wasn't like that. And these artists were bringing in a lot of truth. And these artists, you know, as painful as some of these things that they might have been expressing or saying or whatnot or vulgar, it was truth. It was
Mhm.
real, and it was. And so I got so inspired by the fact that there was this realness. That sure, like I got a little upset that there was this fakeness, but by being able
Mhm.
to view into this, these people, these artists, these human beings that are being so vulnerable within themselves and expressing themselves truthfully in a world that really isn't set up for them in a lot of ways, right? And the adversities they've overcome, Eminem's adversities, Hobson's adversities, Dr. Dre's adversities,
Mm.
and the things that they went through on their story to be able to get to where they're at. That was a huge inspiration, and seeing how passionate a lot of these artists were, seeing how passionate Eminem was, and why he loved his music. Like, he did it for his daughter, and he did it for his family, and to get out of the situation and sorts of things. So I just another huge inspiration there was like, wow, these artists really helped me. I want to do that for other people. Like, as a young 12-year-old kid, by listening to these artists, I was helped so much. Like, that was able to, get my mind kind of down the track, down, the track going left, as opposed to I could have gone really far right. You know what I mean? And And so I wanted to do that as I grew a little bit older. I wanted to as well provide that for other 12-year-olds, for other, 14-year-olds who are sitting there listening to this music, who feel away, who blah, blah, blah. I wanted to be able to provide those same feelings, those same messages. And so huge inspiration there. And absolutely, like, I mean, the third and final inspiration would just be touching on exactly like kind of the adversities and story and stuff. I growing up, I've been through different things and seen different scenarios and stuff like that. And a big inspiration for me is being able to provide an opportunity for me not only to get out of that situation completely, but to help so many people as well get out of certain situations, get out of seeing certain things, and you know what I mean. And so a huge inspiration comes from me not only being able to overcome some of my adversities in my story, but as well being in a position to provide value, to provide some knowledge to other people who may be in a similar situation
Mm-hmm.
as to what I went through. So those are definitely my biggest inspirations for sure.
Nice. I like that because people like Eminem, Dr. Dre, Hobson, they're like you said, they're helping people to kind of like discover in themselves their tools and their creativity that they can, use to get out of that the adversity and expound on what makes them unique and like succeed in life. And I think that's what you are doing. So that's really awesome that that's your inspirations, because like there are a lot of people that are inspired, and it's not bad, but it's just different. Like people who are inspired more by like getting famous or getting, money and all that stuff. But I like people like you who in their lyrics and their message are more than just, hoes and cars and stuff. So,
You have a lot more
there's
to say.
substance.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
Those artists are
Not that it's, wrong, but
yeah, those artists have whenever I listen to those artists, I mean they speak to me more than like somebody who is, let's see, what's a
well, we don't have
rapper?
to name it.
All those other rappers that are talking about money and getting money and doing all these drugs or doing all these different things, and then but you listen to Hobson and you listen to Eminem, Dr. Dre, they have things that
They're not
are
necessarily happy-go-lucky, but they're real and they inspire you to be like genuine and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So would you consider yourself like a more of an underground type of rapper? Like Hobson started more underground, and so did
Yeah,
Eminem before they started blowing up.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself that?
they totally did. Yeah, they absolutely did. In terms of where I want to be as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
I look towards, and this is in terms of the underground aspect, right? Not in
Mm-hmm.
terms of full living, but I look more towards Logic and J Cole as to
Okay.
where I want to
Okay.
be.
That makes sense.
They've really gotten themselves to a position of such impact and such success. Logic is really protected around in his area. J Cole's really protected in his area and still able
Mm-hmm.
to genuinely express themselves and genuinely be themselves, and but at a level that is it's extraordinary and absolutely looks difficult. Like someone
Oh
like
yeah.
Logic just retired, right? Like he just retired at 30 years old because
I wish I could
how
do
much
that.
it was.
Yeah, that's a good role models because I know Logic didn't he put out that song with the number to the suicide hotline and stuff like that. So, but they're major household names or some household, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and I don't know if they had their own record labels or anything, but don't you have? Aren't you producing your own music or with your own record
Yeah.
label? Or I think
So
I saw that.
So we're developing right now a with our team kind of a brand. We have nothing that's any legalities in stone right now yet, but we are developing the idea to create our own record label, and kind of where we're bringing all of our music from right now is from this brand, and that's called
Okay.
PayAttention Records.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Yeah. And that's like, I think that's a huge part of keeping true to your message a lot of times in the music. What it seems like in the music industry is having your own record label where you don't have to um, be subject to all these, brands telling you what kind of message you should be putting out, like contracts and stuff. You're putting out what you want to put out,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think there's a huge importance in ownership and in
yeah.
leadership, like within understanding, your reins in the business, because it's easy for an artist to say, hey, I'm not going to learn anything about the business. Let me get this manager. You handle all my
Hmm.
stuff. You do all this sort of stuff. I mean, you're gonna get yourself in a position that's just so like I just feel like it's just understanding more. The more you understand about your own business, the more you understand about the reins, what's happening, what's
Hmm.
past are doing what. You're just gonna be in a position to have more solitude, not only solitude but more control. You're gonna have higher happiness because you're gonna understand why things are the way they are and what route you really want to take. No one else is gonna know what's best for you really in life. And so I think you know, ownership of your masters, ownership of your music, ownership of understanding your legalities, and you don't always have to do everything yourself, but understanding,
Hmm.
at least kind of how the road goes and how everything goes is definitely one of I think the most valuable things an artist can do.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Now you said that you're Muddy Cree and
No,
you
swampy.
Swampy Cree. Sorry,
Yes.
two different things. Two different. Definitely keep the yeah. Anyways, you said that you're Swampy Cree. So how do you stay connected to your culture,
If
or
you do.
if you do, yeah, or what does it mean to you what does it mean to you to be Swampy Cree?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and I apologize if my answer's a little bit longer, but
Don't worry.
No,
We
the
no,
love
yeah.
we love it.
the so yeah, wow, culture and understanding my identity and taking an understanding in my identity saved my life. Like absolutely, it changed my life. It saved my life. So fast forward to before I had an understanding of my culture, my identity, right? And this is so let me give a time frame. Kind of, it wasn't until about grade 10 that I was introduced to a doorway into my culture, right? Or introduced into my culture and my identity and stuff like that in my history. And so before that, before that point, there was a lot of moments where I was actually ashamed of being identified with certain aspects of my past or certain aspects of who I am. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, like going to middle school and stuff like that, I would never really mention to people that I'm indigenous or my father's indigenous or this sort of things, right? It was not something I spoke about, and it was something that I was almost ashamed of it, right? Because in the way that the world would paint that growing up, it's the hidden prejudice, you know what I mean? There's just little things, right? And the hidden prejudices and the hidden judgments and stuff. And nobody in middle school is meaning to do that, but they exist. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And so I was ashamed. I was ashamed to identify myself as being indigenous, and even through the grade 9 year and stuff like that. And so to give a bit of a background, my father, he lived in Winnipeg for a couple of years when I was younger, but then he moved out to the Paw, and so I was living with my mother and my stepdad as well. There's still a connection to my father, but so my father is the indigenous one in my family. It's where I got my indigenous blood from. My stepdad might have a little bit of indigenous blood in him, but I would have gotten mine from my father. And but anyways, yeah, we still would stay connected. I would visit him and whatnot. My father was adopted, and he came through the colonial adoption system, and so himself was never able to connect with his culture growing up. Right, he was taken at a very very young age and given to an all-white family out in Morris, Manitoba, and that's where he grew up. And so he actually left, Morris, Manitoba, I think at the age of 17, 18. At the time, it was a prejudice feeling town to him, and he didn't want to be there, and it just didn't have the aspects to his identity he needed to make the right choices. So he moved to Winnipeg, and from there he had gotten himself involved in different things that just aren't so good, for personal well being, right? You know what I mean? And so when you're in those situations, you make decisions, right? And so he had come to Winnipeg and moved to Winnipeg, and that's where a couple of years later he had met my mom. And it wasn't until actually my dad was about 34, I believe, 34 years old, right? Um, that he had found a route into the culture. He had found a doorway into the culture, and he went on what you would call a spirit quest or spirit walk, right? And that's within his understanding that how he had mentioned that what it was, right? And so basically, what he had done is he had walked from Winnipeg to Thunder Bay. He was gonna move to Thunder Bay for a bit, but he had walked, basically hitchhiked, and along the way, he had come into contact with individuals that, basically the synchronicities lined up so well, and he had come into contact with individuals that offered him understandings, teachings, cultural things like that, and in a way it was very different for him because he'd never been around our indigenous culture, indigenous thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he'd actually arrived at Thunder Bay and met an elder, and I can't remember her name, but it was a she, and he had met an elder, and she had said one of the first things she said to him was, "Oh, there you are. We've been waiting for you."
Wow.
And so that was so new to my dad to kind of have those understandings, and obviously confusing, like, what, you're
Yeah.
waiting for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but while he was out there, he was able to get some very, very valuable teachings, and some that he was able to teach me as well, and um just certain aspects towards the importance of culture and ceremony. But so around that age, he had found that identity to himself, right? Fast forward a little bit, he moved to the Paw. Went to the Paw, Manitoba. He moved to the Paw,
Okay.
and so let's fast forward or rewind a bit. Sorry, right after that spirit quest, it was a couple years later that he had found his birth family, which is, by all means amazing. And they were
Yeah.
living up in the Paw, Manitoba, very big family, and so he went out there to visit. Had to go visit the Paw, Manitoba, and get connected with the family. Um, from there, another 2 years later, like, he lived there for 2 years. I visited him a couple times here and there, and he ended up moving back to Winnipeg after he went through a divorce. Um, went through a divorce. I think it was like 2014, but he had moved back to Winnipeg, and at this time, um, I was living with my stepdad and my mom. We'd been together for already like 14 years. My stepdad and mom, right? And but he had needed a place to stay and a place to get himself reacquainted and reestablished. While coming back to Winnipeg, and so he can get himself back onto his feet. And so we'd offered him a place to stay. We have a guest bedroom here, and so obviously, my mom and dad are way far beyond any sort of differences they had, and as well as stepdad. Everyone here is very, very human, very, very compassionate, understanding. Directing towards what the right thing and healing thing is to do. And so yeah, we had offered him that space to stay and whatnot. But within that time period, he had brought over so many, or at least the understandings that he had known while living here for, at the beginning of that period, he had, brought over a lot of indigenous understandings, the smudge and what it means. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I can't remember exactly quite how it happened, but we ended up getting connected with Sweat Lodge and as well as Sundance. And my stepdad ended up dancing, and my stepdad ended up getting very involved into the understandings of ceremonies and stuff. And so my father had carried that, you know from Thunder Bay, those understandings, and carried them to our family. And it was at that point so many things shifted in my life now that I'm able to look back. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now that I'm able to see and understand kind of what had happened, I'm able to see the difference into what might have happened, where I might have been, what might be, to these understandings now. And this culture, really, the time period that it came into my life and my identity, and the time period it came into my life, I was at a point of a lot of anger. Like I had said, a lot of my idols were people that were as well mad at the world, right? So somebody like Eminem, I listened to him a lot. And so by feeding myself with the constant anger and with the constant just Eminem, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the perspective I would relate to. And so I was mad at the world too. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he's mad at the world, I'm mad at the world. And so that culture had really come in my life at a time where, I was ready to drop out of school, and um you know what I mean? Like, just really in a mental
Yeah.
place that I was losing track of who I was, my identity, and my place in the world, and sort of yeah, the meaning, and so culture itself absolutely saved my life and changed the trajectory of how I handle myself, how I handle um, different understandings I have, different calmnesses I have now, and how I'm able to use them as tools. And so, like, yeah, I definitely connect with the culture, and since then, continuing to look for so many ways to connect with the culture. Like now, I am a drum carrier, and my stepdad as well. He carries some different types of medicines, and so learning these things, um, they come with just such a great deal of the word's not pleasure, but a great deal of honor. You feel
Yeah.
you feel really really honored to have these understandings, and then as well have that be such a healing point, such a tree, such a such a strong point in your life. You know what I mean? And it provides me so much balance for sure.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I bet you it kind of balanced and like grounded you in in your culture. So
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely, my
amazing.
identity. Yes,
Yeah, in your identity, exactly. Um, that's really amazing. Especially the synchronicity of all of the events that kind of led up to your dad, and then you and your stepdad all kind of getting reacquainted with your identity. So that's cool.
yeah, absolutely. It was a beautiful time period in my life for sure, and I would not be here in the same presence as I
Yeah,
am now
yeah.
yet.
It kind of it probably helps like realign your trajectory, like where you want to go and the message you want to put forth and stuff. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
So we can move on to the next question. So these next ones are also going to be kind of related to, culture and your identity. So this next one is like, how do you navigate through this colonized, world that we're in, this colonized society, with your, traditions or your custom or your culture in mind, in order to succeed in your job or in your passion, like in your music making,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Um,
And I know you just
I
got
think a
reacquainted recently. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I think a part of I think I can touch a little bit on the tool aspect of culture,
Hmm.
and before I had these tools, right? And so before I had these tools, like I've always been me, you know what I mean? I've always
Hmm.
been who I am, and you know what I mean? And so before I had these tools, it was really hard for me to navigate my heart and navigate
Hmm.
how I'm gonna express myself, how I'm gonna, if I see something that's broken in the world, how can I apply healing to that?
Hmm.
How can I make something better? How can I do anything? And before I had any tools, man, like I was in a very dark place in my mind, you know what I mean? Because I was unaware of how I could fix anything. And
Hmm.
in my mind, everything was against me.
Hmm.
And everything was against us as humans, as people. You know what I mean? It was all set up against us. And before I had these understandings and tools of my culture, it was really difficult to navigate through that world. Once I got my tools and understandings and, a peek into the culture, that word describes it best as a tool, is I was able to then take in that understanding, convert it into, like a tool that then can be used to navigate through this world, can be
Yeah.
used to fix, heal, can be used to express properly, can be used to be guided properly, to have protection properly through even your own just confidence in your own, ability. And, since I've had, these understandings, my faith has been so strong that it's really, really easy now in my own feelings, personal feelings, to navigate through this world because of how strong I am on my faith and what I can accomplish and what I know human beings can do. And
Hmm.
and so without these tools, it's very, very difficult to navigate through this world. And I notice it all the time. And even myself back then, and I see other people lacking tools and finding themselves in struggling situations that they don't know how they got there. They don't know why, or sometimes not even their fault, and then just don't know how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And these tools are provided, and they're gifts, you know what I mean? Really
Mm-hmm.
to be able to take a peek and a step in the right direction as to not only why things are like this.
Yeah.
So not only the fact that, say, somebody is a struggling addict or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that case would be, not only understanding behind that what caused it,
Mm-hmm.
but as well how we can be the best support for it. Because without those tools, those two tools right there, how can I be the support and what's behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Those two tools of understanding, if you lack those, your first instinct is to judge that person.
Mm-hmm.
And already you're disconnected as soon as you
Mm-hmm.
judge that person, and healing is non-existent.
Yeah.
And so with those tools, that's the focus, is how can we be better, blah, blah, blah. And so my faith has been so strong by gaining this culture that's backed by, the ancestors. There's so many people out there,
Mm-hmm.
people like you, who call in like this, and just, the understandings that don't belong to a religion, but just understandings that belong to how human beings
Yeah.
can relate to each other and how human beings can live amongst each other. And that eliminates and eradicates any of the fear from any colonial,
Yes.
you know, overhaul, or, the biggest corporations, the most money they could ever have, whatever they want to do, that eliminates and eradicates the fear, because I know that we're together, you know what I mean, as people.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's powerful.
absolutely.
That is powerful. Like just when I get disconnected and I kind of get fearful of the future of, you know, where is this world going with all these big corporations, capitalism and colonialism that, you know, obviously I benefit from, but I get really discouraged and, you know, disconnected and sad. And then I kind of, whenever I am able to feel better, it's because of reminding myself like that we are all together in this, we can connect, and reminding myself of the compassion, you know, why, you know, why we're struggling, like what's the root of like our human connection, you know, and like yeah, I can't really explain it that well, but exact like, you know, that's how I'm able to find the strength to and passion to do things that, you know, are meaningful to me, and not just sit and sulk in sadness and disconnection.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
Yeah, so you were talking about some tools there, that your culture is um, the things that you've learned are tools in bettering yourself and bettering the world. How, uh, or not how, what, could you give us a couple examples of some of those tools that other people, other non-indigenous people would not fully understand?
Good
Hmm.
You
question.
did talk about like going to a sweat and going to the Sundance. I completely agree that those two things are really powerful in centering yourself and grounding yourself to the people that are around you and the world that is around you, and bringing you back, showing that yeah, our ancestors did this
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years ago, and I'm doing it. I'm continuing this culture. I'm continuing doing this. And
Yeah.
you said that your stepdad um, also participated in those ceremonies, and he may not be completely indigenous, but you said that he's doing that. So uh, could you also touch on that? It's why it is okay for non-indigenous people to do this as well. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with the tools that I've gained, the best way I can describe them is emotional understandings and just thought processes,
Mm.
and how we can Like how we can, the tools really are how to manage our emotions, manage ourselves. And by doing that, things become more clear.
Mm-hmm.
Things, you know, things just become more clear. And that's the best way I can say it. With the tool of compassion, if you lack the tool of compassion, there's a lot of things in life, scenarios, situations, things like that, that you lack an understanding on, that you lack a depth on. Do you know what I mean? If we lack empathy, the tool of empathy and the thought process of empathy to remind ourselves all the time, this person, you know, if I was born in the same shoes as this person went through, every single experience this person went through, I would act the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I might do the same thing if I went through every single thing this person went through. And so if that's not we lack that understanding. We lack a depth of life. Do you know what I mean? And things aren't so clear. That's a one level, just a wall in front of you. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
depth. And so these tools really boil down to emotional balances, like empathy, controlling anger, controlling or understanding sadness, sitting with sadness and emotional these emotional things, by healing ourselves and focusing on ourselves. That old saying is that you can't heal others till you heal yourself, and that is just so true, because we can't see it, and
Mm-hmm.
we won't be able to see it because we lack the tools and the understanding to be able to build that house that needs to be built.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're given a screwdriver. We have screwdrivers, we got saws, but we don't have a hammer. You need that hammer to build that house.
Mm-hmm.
And so those tools boil down to emotional understandings. To me, in my perspective, and I think other people would explain it different. To me, those are the most important tools that I've gotten through my culture. And yeah, touching on family side kind of history there. We started going to Sundances, um, and as well as sweat lodges. It was, I believe, 6 years ago already now. 5 years ago, yeah. And I don't think I went the first year. It was just my stepdad and my dad who went the first year. Um, and I believe it was after that first year that my stepdad started to dance and decided to dance, and so he did his commitment of dancing and doing his 4 years. And my stepdad is Celtic, as well as can't remember, but he's Celtic and as well something else mixed. And so he's not fully indigenous. And he as well was actually put through the adoption system around the same time as my dad, and grew up in an all white family. And so a lot of my stepdad's full ancestry still remains unknown to him, and so he might actually have some indigenous blood in him.
Mm.
But if you were to say, just glance at him, you would think he's more Celtic, than anything. And so within my understandings, touching on non-indigenous people um, taking a part in a ceremony, or taking a part in understandings, whatever it is, gatherings. And as long as I've been going to ceremonies, to anything involved in that way of life, I've seen so many different colored faces, so many different colored people. And the people I've met going to these things are such genuine, open-hearted people. And the elders I've spoken to and the people I've spoken to have always said, this is an open place. You know what I mean? This is an open way of life, an open understanding, and open. Anybody can come in. You know what I mean? Nobody is told to stay out. And I think there's different connotations that happen. I've had some people tell me that, like, if you're and this isn't based off of race, but this is based off of morality, I think. But I've had some people tell me that certain people aren't allowed in ceremony physically because of, their history or their current feelings at the moment. Some people, like, and it's nobody keeping them out, but some people can't cross that line, can't find their way to it, can't, you know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
if they want to, even if like it's in their mind, I'm going to go to ceremony, they just won't be able to find their way to it. And I've even witnessed somebody standing at the gate of a Sundance, and it's not like the gate to where everything is, but it's the drive-in gate, and I witnessed
Hmm.
somebody standing there, and I had told him like there's food and everything, and please come in and whatnot, and it just seemed like he was unable to come in. He was a younger gentleman, like 24, but it seemed like he had some underlying issues, maybe addiction or
Mm.
whatnot. I don't want to judge, but um I had told him like, yeah, come in, and he was just standing there, kind of listening to the music, and it seemed like he was unable to come any farther. But
Mm.
so that, I think that's based on your own spirit, your own understandings and whatnot. But like I've met so many multi different colored people, giving their absolute all to the source. You know what I mean? Giving everything up, sacrificing themselves, and showing all their love, giving what they can, their understandings, and what I mean, my bestest friends, so interested in going to sweat lodges that are, predominantly white and don't have any indigenous background, nothing like that. And our indigenous families are always so welcoming to that if the intentions are true. And it's usually pretty easy to understand and see whether or not the intentions are true, and
Hmm.
whether or not somebody wants to genuinely be there to gain an understanding. And I have heard, from other places and different things like that, that there are some groups that are a little less accustomed to letting in outsiders, and people that aren't a part of an already kind of sort of established group, but not the ones I've been to, and not the understandings that I have accustomed. And like indigenous culture, you got to think like there's so many tribes were around before pre-colonization, and so many different languages, so many different customs and ceremonies. They change from the Manitoba to Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan to BC. So but the ones that I've been to, it's very, very open, and the elders and the people I've talked to in the communities and whatnot, like everybody's there for the right reason.
That's great. That's like something that a lot of people don't understand is that our culture is open to everybody. As long as you're doing it the right way, as long as you're being respectful about it, we're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to
Hmm.
join in and participate, especially at all these different ceremonies. But don't just come around
And there, well,
to
there could,
just ceremonies. I mean, come around all the time. Come see what we're all about at all times of the year, not just at ceremony and
yeah.
not just at celebration. But you were talking earlier about how you gotta learn how to live with like depression and learn with or not depression but sadness
Sadness,
and
yeah.
stuff. I mean, come around whenever we're at those peaks, at those parts of our lives as well. I mean, it's important to understand somebody not only whenever they're uh, doing religious things, not only whenever they're celebrating, but also whenever they're at their lowest points. That's something that's super important to understand somebody, is to understand them fully in those different ways. And I really respect that you are open to talking about all this stuff and like sharing what you've been through and what your family's been through. So I thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, no worries, you guys. This is my first podcast I've been invited to, so you guys,
Cool.
uh, I carry that honor to be on your show.
Nice.
Feels good.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's true though. Like, thank you so much for sharing because everyone has their own journey in life, and like getting like your reacquaintance with your culture and gaining like, and then your openness to share it and to explain like you're not like anyone's welcome to participate in these kinds of ceremonies and things. So It's not just for indigenous people, but there are, like you said, there could be some tribes that might not want outsiders to come in, and that's like understandable too. So it's all different. I guess we're on to our last question, and we can always talk more too, but this is our last question. Just what, final thoughts you have to leave our audience with, whether it has to do with, music or community or, culture or anything. Sorry, our dogs are
Sure.
barking and yapping in the background in the other
No, no worries.
room.
Um, I mean, I don't have too many final thoughts. Maybe with maybe with like a nudge or something, I can get my mind going.
Okay. I guess like what maybe
Let's
go
go
ahead.
back to
Wait,
your
yeah.
music and
Okay, yeah, let's
uh,
go back to your music. Yeah.
uh,
Sure.
you initially talked about uh, doing stuff with the community and um,
That's what I was gonna bring up
yeah,
kind of.
you I would love for you to like talk more about or uh, say how other people could get involved with their community, whether that be
Yeah, good
with
idea.
music or with their culture or
Or whatever like
uh,
hobby they have.
what
Mm,
how do you get people to uh, help do what you do in that sense?
cool. That's a great question. So yeah, that's definitely like I said, a huge focus at the beginning is community outreach, finding a way to give back to the community and doing these things. And like I'll be honest, like I hate doing that. Like, people say, "Oh, I love giving back to the community. I love doing that." I hate it because I shouldn't have to be doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like I do not want to be going and, donating and giving money and, you know, creating community events and sort of because people should have what they need. People should
Yeah.
be like it's not fun work to be going to provide this stuff, and
Mm.
do these things. But anyways, Winnipeg has just been so amazing. I've grown up in Winnipeg my whole life, and I've always had such a special connection to the city, and I love the people. It's a very cultured city, and it's actually, we're not too big and we're not
Hmm.
too small, and so like we have a very connected scene in so many ways. We have connected art scene, and that art scene's connected to the film scene, and our film scene's connected to the music
Cool.
scene's connected to the dance scene. So it's like a lot of people know each other within these communities, and
Nice.
and so we're just such a community oriented city, and I learned that right away that we're a community oriented city, and so sometimes I'll put out a call on my Instagram. I'll have a project idea or something. Like we just recently did community care packages,
Okay.
and so we put together 325 care packages, raised over 200 or $2,900, and all of that came. I started up that with $0 in my pocket, $0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we provided so many care packages. But what I had done is we did one back earlier in July, and I came up with the idea. And then I know people in the community are so willing to help here in Winnipeg and are so willing to get involved that I put out a call. And these people that would message me, I'd message some people, give a little email like, "Hey, are you interested in being a part of this?" And sure enough, before you know it, I had like a group of 8 young volunteers. Like, we're all like 20 and 19 and stuff like that. And so I
Yeah.
had a group of like 8 volunteers, 9 volunteers, that were just ready. We started developing the plan as to what we're gonna do, and then in July we did one where we got over 308 packages. We just did one last month where we got over 300 packages, and all of that is because of the community. Like off of $0, it's off of everybody coming together. And all that I did is I put together a little bit of plan. I put together the thing,
Hmm.
but I've been so understanding of the fact that people want to help.
Yeah.
People out there want to help. I've always wanted to help. Like when I was younger, I wanted to go on mission trips and do these things, but I never did because I didn't have the money for it, and I didn't know like where to help. Like
You
I
didn't have
always
like the
wanted to.
opportunity kind of like it didn't
Yeah,
present itself.
no opportunity to help, and so I put out this opportunity to help, and right away, just amazing people were ready to help. We had an outreach team, we had drivers, we had, you know what I mean, and people were ready and willing, and all I had to do was put the thought out there, do a little bit of research. I applied for some granting, but I love doing that stuff. So like to
Mm-hmm.
me, it's not work. Like I didn't do any work. We got
Mm-hmm.
together as a community, and you know, look how effortless it was what we created as that community. And I think everybody who was involved and sees it as well gets a little more inspired, understanding that hey, like you don't need any money to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Look how easy, all eight of us did this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's eight of us and none of us spent a dollar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need money to make an impact. You don't need, people. You don't need eyes to make an impact. You really just need to believe in it and do it. Like seriously, just do it. Like the opportunities are out there, and whatever you feel like making an impact on, I guarantee you, if you just do that little bit of a push for yourself towards it, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to become that much easier, and it's not as daunting as it might seem. And people are there willing to help, and people are there. So many people are there willing to help and willing to make a good vision come true. And so there's nothing to worry about. I think at the beginning for anyone who wants to start up doing something good,
Yeah.
we need more of it, and don't worry about it because the world needs more of it, and you're doing a good thing either way.
I love that. Yeah, it's kind of just like you said, like you just if you put that effort out there, like do a little bit of research and give an initial, shout out to people or reach out to people, present that opportunity to others. Like you said, like there are people willing to do good. So that's a good thing to remember. Just sometimes it seems like, like you have an idea maybe to help others, or you have an idea that you want, like a project you want to do to help others. And you think maybe that's not, people won't be interested in that. Like no one's going to want to help me, or it's going to be a lot of money or whatever. But it's really not, like you said, it's really not as daunting as it seems in your head. Like you just got to have that initial push to do it. And then people will want to help if you have the right
Absolutely.
intentions, I think. Yeah, I agree with that, especially with the tool of social media, like you use Instagram and stuff. So,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Another thing too. Sorry about that.
oh,
no,
it's
you're
fine.
good.
Um,
It's all good.
is also just stay consistent with it. Like if you
Yeah.
if you feel like no one's really believing in your vision at the beginning, just stay consistent with it. Like I remember I did in high school. I did a charity show, and this is my first one, my first charity show. Right, all proceeds going to it was what was it at the time? It was the Red Cross Syria refugee crisis. So
Mm.
we are giving all the things to that. And anyways, I had done the show and blah blah blah. I'd gotten some support from my principals and all that, but like none of my peers
Mm.
had given me the support I wanted. Barely anyone from the high school showed up, like you know what I mean, to that show.
Yeah.
There was like parents. It was like parents, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
the principal's friends and stuff like that for a rap show. And I was like, okay, but like anyways, like I was pretty discouraged kind of at that time, because like people aren't believing in this. People aren't believing in my vision. Like why are people
Hmm.
going and celebrating this other guy who's rapping about, bitches, hoes, and whatnot. And,
Yeah.
I'm here trying to do something really genuine and real, and I'm not getting that support or that, that fire. And it's, to anybody who feels that way, like, I just want to remind you that it's not about that, and to
Hmm.
just keep pushing, you know
I
what I
love
mean?
that.
And
Yeah.
the right people will see what you're doing. The impact will come. And, that was like 4 years ago. And now I feel I'm in a position to finally be able to do some of these charity shows and these things with the proper tools, and with the right amount of ease and the right amount of with the right amount of dedication towards it and whatnot, and do it properly. So like it comes, and there's
Yeah.
a lot more support now towards these things that I'm doing than there was back then. So just don't get discouraged, anybody who's
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like don't shy away from something that you're passionate about. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
very important.
Um, just one last thing. So how can people get in contact with you or like
Oh,
find
yeah.
you on social media? What is your
Yes.
hashtag
Sure.
or your
And Spotify.
yeah, Spotify? All what is your handle?
Cool. Yeah. So my handle on pretty well everything is just Caid Jones. Like on Twitter, I think it's just Caid not Jones, but it'll come up if you put Caid Jones. And yeah, you guys can, anybody who's listening, feel free to reach out to me, message me, do anything whatsoever on any social media platform. I'm there to talk. I'm there to exchange. And yeah, I'm coming out with my debut
I was gonna say.
EP. That'll be coming out next month sometime. I don't have a date
Ooh,
yet for you guys, but I just dropped my 2 debut singles, and I'm really excited to finally be able to get out a debut project. So keep tuned for that.
yes. Yeah, can you say the names of it? Because I know Chain, now I'm blanking. I can't remember the names of Changes.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you
yeah,
say the names so people can look it up?
yeah.
'Cause I love
So yeah,
them.
the 2 singles, Changed Up and Higher, and that'll
Changed
be
up, that
off
is.
of the EP No Distractions, Please.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
cool.
Yeah, we've been listening to. So you have three songs out on Spotify, and do you have more on YouTube and stuff? Or
Yeah, I have a couple more on YouTube. The two that I have on YouTube are just like freestyles. Um, But once I get this project out, then I'll finally have some content out there that people will be
nice.
able to, yeah, listen to.
Yeah, people check them out.
Yeah,
Good
definitely check
stuff.
them out.
Very, very good music.
Uh,
Well, thank you so much. It was really great getting to know you. And I just, whenever I leave conversations like this, I just feel more grounded and like encouraged about the state of our world. Like talking to people that have a good message and want to put good things out there and are just down to earth. I love
mhm.
it. I loved getting to know you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You guys too. It
Yeah.
was a really big pleasure coming and joining in. I really like what you guys are doing, putting your platform to amplify indigenous voices and yeah,
Yes.
voices that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
Really
much
good.
for, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Well, peace. It
All
was
right.
so nice meeting you.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
stay in touch.
absolutely. Have a great afternoon. Thank you
You
so
Yeah,
much.
you
too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, see
Bye,
ya.
Caid.
See ya.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned a lot.
Yep. Thank you for listening. So go ahead and check out our website at www.asmudgeforyourthoughts.com. From there, you can find us and like us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as other links. And if you or anyone you know would think you would be a good fit for our podcast, you can fill out our simple form that is found on our website as well.
Or you could email us at contact@asmudgeforyourthoughts.com. We'd also like to thank Mary Kay for designing our logo, and shout out to 8th Generation for this wonderful blanket as our backdrop. They did not provide this to us. We just really like what they stand for. They are inspired natives, not Native inspired.
Yes.
And we'd also like to thank Okimauki the late Roddy Sunchild Sr., for the words in our song, our intro song. He gave me these words to live by when I was just a young lad, and I thank him for that.
All right. With that, Gigawabamin.
All right, see you later.